So let's get started and talk about your job hunt. We're going to talk about what drives a career in our age, how do companies hire, and how does your career flow develop? Now, for entrepreneurs, naturally, it's a much different thing because you're doing your own thing. You're starting your own company, so you're setting your own rules. And why should you learn entrepreneurship? And I recommend that everyone take one class. Like you can take TEM 400 with me, or you can take it online with Professor Chavez. But the biggest reason why is because you can control your future. You go along in life and you see a problem and you think of a solution and you want to make a product or company, but you don't know how. So what are your options? Well, you can just give up. You can come up with all these different excuses of why you can't do it. And so you go on with your life and you get older and then you die. Or you can learn how. And let's face it, entrepreneurship is all over the place at ASU. We'll give you a map, we'll teach you the tactics, and we'll help you develop your own vision. Fear is about not knowing what's going to happen to you. And now we'll teach you how, what to look at. And so you put a team together, you make the climb, you make it to the top, and then you get to harvest. I tell everyone at one time in your life, go to a startup because it is such a volatile experience. You learn about yourself. And some people learn that startups are just not for them. It's too unstable. But you find out what you really want. The world isn't a stable place. I mean, there's war in Ukraine, COVID, everything else. Who knows what's going to happen next? I mean, nobody could have predicted any of this stuff. And so how do companies win? By being cheaper. And the easiest way to be cheaper is to get rid of you. Is this where you want to bank your future on? Own your future. Second reason why you might want to be an entrepreneur is what I call the pie. And that's that Dr. Cho solved a problem that they were working on for 7 years. And he figured out how to make a microgyroscope and that it was possible. Billions have been made. How was I rewarded? I did this for a company. So I got a $2,000 raise. Now, once you subtract FICA, state income tax, federal income tax, and divide by the 24 pay periods, I cleared $46.92 per paycheck. My girlfriend at the time asked me, what does this mean? And I said, it means we can go out to dinner 1 or 2 more times a month. Just don't order any expensive alcohol. Anyway, that's why the pie is a reason. If you're creative, you want a piece of the pie. Third reason why. Does the ordinary bore you? Do you sit in class and just be bored out of your mind because things are mundane? Or when you go to work, if you find yourself sitting around, or the worst thing of all is you wake up in the morning and you don't want to go to work. The reason why is your dreams are much larger than what a company can give you. And this is why you should start your own deal. Take care of yourself. This is what being an entrepreneur allows you to do. You can take care of yourself if you know how to start a business. And the reason why you need to know this is because nobody else is. Nobody's going to help you. What it comes down to is if you smoke every day, you're going to die 10 years early. If you're obese, you're going to die 14 years early. And if you do something you don't like, you get to die every day. Now, when I came to ASU, this was my vision. Ask your professor sometime, what's your vision for us? Most of them don't have one. But it's the overriding reason why you do something. And this was my vision. I came to ASU because I wanted to make sure that when you go out into the industrial world, you don't get killed and that you thrive. And so, how can I teach you how to do that? First, you need to find your voice. Find out who you are. Not what mom and dad say, what not everybody else says, but who you are. From your voice, you can find what your dreams are. And from your dreams, you can own your future. Now, we live in a very scary world. This is how much people got paid according to how productive they were. And as you can see, right up until 1973, it was lockstep of what people made and what they produced. And then something arguably terrible happened. The semiconductor. The problem is the technology. The wealth doesn't necessarily go to the individual. It makes us more productive. But do you get a share of it? And it's becoming less. And then it even got worse when the internet and cloud came around. And I'm predicting in the next 10 to 15 years, there's going to be another tsunami. And that's that silicon is coming to the end of what it can do. And so what'll happen is it'll get replaced by something else. And that's going to allow even more computing power. And the people who can figure out what to do with that are going to grab all the wealth. And the problem is that wealth won't translate to society. All these people talk about changing the world. They're not changing the world. Uber, worth billions of dollars. They just gave you another way to get a ride. How does that change the world? Did it create a new way for everybody to get jobs and have wealth? No, they're finding out in Uber, you're really basically making minimum wage. And you're taking a risk in doing it at that. Here's the thing, there's a wealth disparity in the United States, and that's that the top 1% keep growing where the bottom 50% keep shrinking. Wealth is flowing a certain way. Manufacturing, they say, oh, it's because we offshored all our stuff. Well, that's not true. 13 to 20% of the jobs have been lost due to offshoring. 70% have been lost due to automation. And so 47% of all the industries out there today can be replaced by AI. If you do something repetitive, you can get replaced by a machine. For example, why do airlines need baggage handlers? Robots are part of this whole thing. And yet only 28% have been successful at it. And it's because they don't understand how to digitally transform. Here's the thing about a lot of UTM students. How do you decide? Who makes decisions about how this technology works? Is it the software hardware guys? Well, no, they do software and hardware. Is it algorithms? No, it's the math guys. There's something called a domain expert who understands how to bring all the pieces together. These are going to be the future leaders. These are the people who companies are going to value. Your career paths is how do you want to be an innovative contributor? Is an entrepreneur, it's your own company. An intrapreneur means that you create value within the enterprise. And actually, I'm working on an intrapreneur course right now, which I think should be pretty popular, although I've been wrong about that many times in the past. Or are you going to be just an individual contributor, which means you fulfill a function? Those are your values to the company. You decide which of those career paths you want to take. You can go horizontal like me, which is do a whole bunch of different things, or go vertical. The thing is, if you want to climb the ladder faster, go vertical. But if you want to do more interesting things, go horizontal. What defines your career? And this is what I call the career stack. At the basis of your career is your employable skills, and that's that you have hard skills. You can basically solve a problem for somebody, like you can do the books, you can do a website, things like that. You have functional skills, you can code. Job skills are you're good at work, meaning maybe you develop project management skills, or you're a good leader, or you're great at working in teams. Here's a problem that's very difficult to sell to people. And then you have the career skills. You're the problem solver. You're the guy who has vision. You're the guy who knows opportunity, who can innovate. And those will last you throughout your entire career. But again, it's hard to quantify. Each skill builds on the other. It's a stack, meaning if you don't have a layer of a stack beneath it, the next layer doesn't matter. You have to do each. If you have good employable skills, you'll be in the top. you'll be in the 50th percentile. There's always somebody else who can do what you can do. If you're really good at your job, that puts you in the top 20%. Problem with that is 1 out of 5 people are the ones who are in line to get axed. If you have great career skills, that puts you in the top 1%. Somebody's always going to want you. In order to get employable skills, this is where you have to go get an internship. This is why from freshman year, you should be working towards that internship. It'll make your life so much easier. And this is where, actually, I thought this course should have been taught when you're a freshman. Your job skills. This is where you get from your job experience, but you can also learn this stuff in school. And your career skills. This is why you get an education. Your education changes the way you think. And it affects the way you think. Now, one joke a lot of my friends play on me is, when you go into the Hall of Fame, which school's hat are you going to wear? And for a while it was Michigan, and then I kind of became disenchanted with Michigan, and then it was UCLA, and then they blew me off on some things, so I lost my love for UCLA. But then I realized that, honestly, I did not like going to MIT. I didn't like MIT at all. It's a very cold place, it's a very technical place, and I tend to be a more well-rounded person. Everyone I knew loved the place, and to me it was just a struggle. If you ask me what course did you like best at MIT, there's not one technology class I enjoyed in my entire time there, so I guess I went to the wrong place. However, one thing I can't deny is the way I think today is all because of MIT. And my big secret is that I minored in creative writing and literature. I took 10 courses in the humanities. And that has affected the way I look at things. And so I compete against engineers who look at the world this way, and I can see the world this way. But this is why you don't take a Udemy course or something like that. It doesn't give you an education. All it'll give you are hard skills. Now, what if I have hard skills? It means that your skills are going to last 5 or 10 years, and then technology is going to obsolescence your skills. And so this is the problem with going this online course route. Yeah, it's great for the short term, but then in 5 years, you got to take another course, and then another course, and then another course. And you spend your entire life just taking course after course after course. If you have good job skills, you have what's called institutional skills, meaning you understand how the company works, where the bodies are all buried and everything else. The problem is when you reach 50, they're not going to want you anymore. And the reason why is what they're paying you doesn't match what you're producing. What happens in a big company is you stop learning. The company's getting more out of you than you're getting out of it. And it really breaks my heart. But I see these people who are 50 years old and they can't get a job anywhere. And they can't get a job anywhere because their skills haven't grown. And then they're upset they can get a job. But here's the problem. They're not getting paid anywhere what they were making. And it's because if you learned how HP works, your value is to HP. But to someone else, they don't value you the same way HP does. And the best example I can give is supposing you're a janitor and you're the best janitor in the world. Everybody loves you. But there comes a point you keep getting raises because of seniority. And there comes a point where you're just, you don't want to pay $90,000 to a janitor. And then you get whacked. And then what do you do with yourself? If you have career skills, though, if you can think conceptually, the hard truth about a lot of advancements is that it distills down to first principles. If you understand that, then you can solve virtually every problem. People focus on details. People don't focus enough about what the base problem you're working on. If you can do these things, and if you can figure out what opportunity is and know how to take advantage of it, then somebody's always going to want you, and your career will never end. It'll end when you say it'll end. Why is the wheel the most important invention in human history? Because it started a revolution? Anyway, your career progression. When you first get started in your career, all you're thinking is, I just want a job. Just get me a real job. And I don't want to wait tables anymore. I don't want to stamp parking tickets. And so your career starts out, you get a job. Your early part of your career is focused on money. What the biggest mistake people make in the early part of your career is you need more than money. You need skills. And you need to think about what skills you have that you want to require. Then you reach the middle of your career and you reach what I call the midlife crisis. And in a midlife crisis, you're wondering, you have some success, you have some money, and you wonder, is this all there is? The biggest people who have midlife crises are MDs. I mean, you specialize, but after a while, there's just so many feet you could look at, or, okay, so many heart problems. What do you do? And so a lot of people go get MBAs because they think that's the solution. I used to actually go to recruiting meetings for UCLA. For some reason, they stopped inviting me. But anyway, I pretty much know why. But anyway, the thing, they asked me my opinion of what to say. And the thing is, I'm always going to voice what I believe. And I said, here's the issue. A lot of you are in here thinking an MBA is going to solve your midlife crisis, and it's not. Oh my God, the worst thing that happened is this one woman said, you're absolutely right. I listened to what you had to say. And I realized the problem in my life is my stupid husband. So I'm dumping him. Thank you so much. And then they're like, oh no. I'm responsible for the destruction of families. Anyway, when you reach your senior part of your career, you become afraid. And that's it. Does the company still want me? Is anybody going to want me when I'm 50? And when you get laid off, and actually most of the people I know have been laid off at one point or another, including myself, they whacked our entire R&D division. And so I was one of the people to go. The thing about being part of it in a senior career when you get let go is you become irrational. You think, will I ever work again? And if you have managed your career, you will. And then some people have really struggled. And this is why we see statistics about when people end up dropping out. And then comes the end of your career. And that's it. When you reach 60, you're reaching the last stage. And the question is, what do you want to do with yourself? Some people just want to coast on in. And then there are people like me who are thinking about, what is it that I want to do next? What do I want my last chapter to be? But then it's time for your career to be over. More job hunts are about losing an opportunity than winning an opportunity. Most people do lousy jobs in their job hunts, and I've been a hiring manager. Bad resumes, bad targeting, bad selling of yourself. And so 90% of the people don't even present themselves well. And that's what this course is for, to teach you not to be one of those 90%. Here's the thing, you're unique. You have to present yourself as unique. Why on earth am I hiring you? And this is my problem with career centers. They all tell you to do the same things, to write the same letters, to answer interview questions the same way. And you're all cookie cutter clones. And I've interviewed a lot of ASU students. Oh, by the way, don't mention me to the career office. Those people don't particularly like me for obvious reasons. Here's the thing. When one student came in front of me and I asked him, so what is your strength? And he said, I'm a good team player. I work really hard. And it's like, oh my God. And then I said, I took his resume and I threw it on the table and I said, tell me something about yourself. He said, not what the career office told you. Tell me something original about yourself. If you don't tell me something original about yourself, if you tell me something you've been programmed to tell me, I swear to God, I will kneecap you right here. The poor kid, he's sort of like, I mean, he didn't know what to do. Subsequently, he got cut loose. He didn't make it there. How do people get jobs? Well, they know people, and so they help them along. That's one thing about your career. Even when you're an introvert like me, you don't make it alone. Somewhere along the line, somebody helped you. Networking. Get to know a lot of people. Here's the thing about networking. Everybody says, oh, just go talk to people. It's not that easy. Building a true network is a lot of work. And not only that, but once you build a network, if you don't sustain it, it will collapse on its own because you're the engine that's driving the entire thing. Third part is you still can find jobs through ads. I have. Everybody says it's a myth. No, it's not a myth. Somebody posted that because they have a real need. And so you can ask that. You can go find who you want to work with. If there's somebody specific you want to target, then figure out how to talk to them. I am not going to tell you how to get a job at Google or Apple or basically one of the big 5 companies. Those are extremely difficult to get into and have very specific needs. For that, you could just read online articles about that. There are lots of people who talk about it who've actually worked there, and I don't have that insight for you. So how did I get jobs throughout my career? Well, I started out in landscaping, and I was a busboy, and the way I got those jobs is I just walked in, asked for a job, and I got it. When I worked on a loading dock after that, someone in my family knew somebody. Well, my dad worked at DuPont, and so that's how I got that job. After that, I tried to get a summer. Here I was, a sophomore at MIT. I could not get a job. It was during recession. I got turned down by McDonald's, Burger King, the local grocery store. So how did I make money for school? I had to hustle. And basically, when you get to know people, especially people with labor jobs, that's how I got the repo car job. A friend of mine who knew how to hook up cars and actually knew how to drive a truck asked me, hey, I need somebody to help me. You want to, do this together? And we got paid $75 a car. I got 25 and he got 50 because he did most of the work. My job was basically to make sure that people didn't beat him up while he was taking their cars away. It's really funny. By the end of the night, in the back seat, we have this stack of baseball bats. Here's another piece of advice I'll give you. If you don't know how to use a weapon, don't use it. It'll end up very badly for you. How did I get my first job as an intern? I did research at different companies. I looked at trade paper ads, and I applied to 100 companies, and I had no work experience. And what was my success? I got 2 job offers. I was ecstatic. Why? Because I only needed 1. Once you have work experience, it gets a lot easier. That internship allowed me to go get engineering jobs as a research scientist. Actually, what ended up, I was at Michigan, and they just sent us a solicitation. They were looking for a research engineer. This was for the gyroscope, and I just happened to be there when it came over the fax, and it's like, oh, I'm interested. Project manager was because of promotion. Department manager, totally different company. This was my flat panel startup, and I got promoted. How did I find out about him? An ad. Program manager, how did I find that job? An ad. Applied to it, got the job. CTO, an ad. VP of engineering, an ad in Craigslist. So as you can see, you can get jobs through ads or postings on websites. Those are real needs of people. And how did I get this lecturer job? Because I decided, I think I'd like to go teach. I'm going to go look at the ASU website and see if they're hiring anyone. And then I find out about this TEM position, and the rest is all history. Your job is like a sales funnel. The first step is to figure out your product, your market, and your strategy. Who are you and what are you selling? Who's going to want to buy into you? And what's my plan to go get that job? And what this involves is your personal branding. When you think about branding, what branding is when you think of something, and you especially. For those of you who took TMC 310 with me, we did this. This is about marketing and me. But branding is about what is the first thing you think of when they think of you. How do you do a search? Awareness. Applications. Do they notice me? And do I notice them? That's the next thing I need to build up about myself. Once they're aware of me and I'm applying to things, am I going to get consideration? This is just like with a product. Now that I'm aware of the product, do I want to buy that product? And so this is where you start getting into HR. Then I want to try you out. Are you really worth the product that I want? And so this happens on your site interview. And then finally, it's like a product purchase. You get an offer. And that starts to get into negotiation and issues like that. This is a journey you go on to find a job. This is your funnel. The thing about you as a product is you have to plan ahead of time. Did I just get into MIT because my sophomore year I decided, oh, I want to go to MIT, or, I want to go to Columbia, or, I want to go to Harvard? And no, you have to plan ahead of time. I was preparing to go to MIT when I was in junior high school. That's the only way you're going to make it. So just don't dive in. Plan ahead of time of what you're going to do. How are you going to market yourself? What's my strategy? Not only that, coming up with a strategy is how do I get better each and every time? A lot of people don't do that on their job searches. You as a product of what you're selling. Companies just want you for one of three reasons. Number one, can you do the job? Do you have the hard skills to do it? Do you fit in with our team? And do you offer me added value? Is there something extra that you have? And this is one of actually the biggest mistakes people make with jobs. They read all this stuff like, here are the 200, most likely asked questions and all. Everything just falls into one of these three things. It's the same for grad school. It's the same for finding a job. Think of yourself in this way. Why do I hire you? Because you can solve my problems. Your personality. Here's one of the hard things about cultural fit. There was one point I had interviewed for 5 jobs straight, and I got rejected for all 5. And I'm wondering, what am I doing wrong? And I talked to a buddy of mine, and she was a headhunter. And she said to me, Steve, you are a professional interview. You speak well, you're articulate, you dress well, you present yourself well. But here's your big weakness. You are very cold. When people hire somebody, they want to feel comfortable with them. They don't feel comfortable about you. You have to find a way to connect with people. And at that point, I learned that you need to gamble. You need to open yourself up about yourself. And one thing, if you ever took a class with me, I tend to tell a lot of personal details about myself and my life. And I was once teaching a class with another professor, and he's like, oh my God, how could you say that? Talking about my wife and how I feel about her and things like that. But here's the thing, and it was the same way when I was a manager. If you can't find a way to personally connect with people, they will not go the extra mile for you. The thing about a startup is everybody thinks, everybody's motivated because you're going to get rich. No, when you're tired and you're beaten up, you're not thinking about money. However, you will fight for the guy next to you. That's the thing about soldiers, for example. My history teacher went to Vietnam and he said, we didn't sit around and think about, oh my God, is this war immoral? What about people at home? What about suffering? What about the racial injustice of this war? No, they were under fire, shooting back. And then the next day they got the body count and it was like, yeah, let's break out the beer. I mean, that's what they were concerned about. And then finally, do you have added value or is it special to them? And I'll talk more about that as we go on. In terms of marketing, the process they go through for you trying to find a job is that they get a lot of resumes. I applied to one job and they said they had 1,000 applications. And what they do is they use a keyword filter. Essentially, the job ad basically tells you what they're looking for. And so they look at that on your resume. And so based on that keyword filter, it filters down the number of resumes. And then HR plucks out 20, maybe sometimes 30 resumes for a hiring manager to look at. Then the hiring manager, you don't have time to read all these resumes in detail, so you skim it. This is what I used to do. And then what happens is in skimming your resume, it's interesting to you, then I'll start reading it. If it's not interesting to me, then you're on the stack. And so if your resume is of interest to me, then I'll read your cover letter. And this is why the cover letter is so important. People do basically cookie cutter cover letters, and they just espouse innocuous comments. Your cover letter is an opportunity to make a case for yourself. Why wouldn't you take advantage of that? And so it drives me crazy that so many people write bad cover letters. And then finally, if you get that far, then I want to talk to you. So then what will happen is 5 to 10 candidates, they'll get phone calls to, you'll get a phone interview, and then they pare that down to who they want to come on site. And then you get a face-to-face interview. And that's all you can hope for because you're in front of the customer now. You've got time with them, and now you make your case why you're the best person. And so that's the process. We'll move on in the next lecture to talk about more of the details of how do I make this resume? How do I make this good cover letter? How do I go find jobs?